Hey guys, hello ISEC in India. Welcome to another one of your workshops at your first ever virtual JNC 2020, the year of many firsts and interesting things to come. And this, of course, is an on demand session, and we're very grateful to you for having opted to be here. This is going to be the finance workshop. And of course, finance today in most of our LCs is a very hot topic. Everyone is talking about being able to be a financially viable LC and whatnot, right? And finance is a very interesting portfolio in ISEC in general. And today I have a very interesting co-FASI with me. Both of us have worked together in the past, and we want to share some of what we've learned uh, over our previous experiences in ISEC with you. Uh, so yeah, that's that. Let's very quickly get into introducing who we are and who your FASIs are. Uh, so yeah, hello. My name is Varun, and I'm currently the LCP of ISEC in Bengaluru. And in fact, in the past, I was a VPF as well. In 2019, Satvik and I were co-commission mates. We've had a lot of fun being VPFs together, and we continue to do so as LCPs. And we hope to bring some of that energy down to you through this space. Anyway, Satvik, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Varun. Hello, guys. I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Satvik, and I'm currently the LCP of ISEC in Chandigarh. And as Varun has previously mentioned, we were two of the coolest VPFs that the Finance Commission had last year. So yes, we had a lot of fun. And since Varun mentioned a lot of first-time things that are happening for the first times, I think this is one of the rare occasions that I am recording a video or a pre-recorded session. So I think, as weird it is for me, I think I'm going to love the experience. So yes, Varun, I think we are good to go.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, and just I'm really sorry, guys. Just before we get into it, Satvik and I are still not, used to this delivering sessions virtually, and we of course have to start in the most traditional way possible, and at least the way we know to deliver sessions. So we're gonna do the Hey ISEC, conundrum over here, and I know this is a pre-recorded session, but we're gonna try to act like we are live with you right now. So when I say hey Isaac, Satvik is hopefully going to reply with a WhatsApp, and hopefully you guys, while listening to this pre-recorded session, go WhatsApp as well, right? So really quickly, hey Isaac.
What's up? Okay, now I think Varun will also have to do the awkward bit, so I won't let him go away like this. So, Varun, now it's your turn to say what's up. I'll start by shouting, "Hey, Isaac!"
What's up? Perfect. Okay, that
Speaking
really
here,
helps.
I, I see I see my mom looking at me from the corner of my room, giving me very weird looks. So again, it's not weird just for us, but for our families as well. So yeah, I think moving on from the awkwardness,
Yeah,
let's go ahead.
definitely.
Okay, so during this session, we felt that there were a couple of things that when we were TLs and members, there were a couple of things we were really confused and at the same time really intrigued about, and we felt that this was the right time to actually, these were the right topics to actually cover in the finance space at JNC. Right, I'm sure Varun would agree that recon was one thing that really, blew our mind off when we were TLs or when we actually did not really understand the model. So there are a couple of things that we really wanted to cover in the finance space. Number one being the SCOA, which is something that Varun will be explaining later. Number two is our favorite, the recon model. And last but not the least is something that I'm sure you must have heard a lot recently from your VPS, which is sustainability. Right? But again, since we are talking about the financial model of the MC, I'm just going to give you a brief of what a financial model is. Right? And that is not just for ISEC, but for any organization in the world. Any organization, whether it is a startup or an NGO or a big MNC, works on a financial model. So financial model is the basis of any monetary transaction or any monetary business that takes place within an organization, whether it is the expenditure or the revenue generation, or at the same time how to, create a sustainable business. Everything related to money comes under financial model of any organization. So I just wanted you to be clear on the financial model aspect and how ISEC, just like any other startup or any other big company, follows a financial model. So yes, this was it. And now Varun, you can take the space forward.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's dive right into it. Right, the SCOA, or the Standard Chart of Accounts, which of course, as you can see on the screen right now, in a formal definition of sorts, the Standard Chart of Accounts is a filing system for categorizing all transactions based on the accounts that they affect. Right. So this is more or less a situation, or it's more or less this one go-to Bible that all VPFs need to follow, because I mean, of course, I hope you know this, and you should know this, that every single LC of ISEC in India, and ISEC in India's MC itself has a budget, right? And of course, any organization out there as well works and operates out of a budget. Now, when you look at a budget, the you're going to be categorizing your income, your revenues, and your costs under certain accounts, or under certain centers all across, right? And the Standard Chart of Accounts is exactly that. It helps you understand and categorize your various ledgers and subledgers, or main accounts and sub accounts, or however you wish to call it, right? So the SCOA, as I previously mentioned, is more or less the Bible of sorts for every single BPF, because any transaction that goes in or comes out of the LC's bank account must adhere to the SCOA, or it is not, as we call, a very, it's not an authentic transaction, if I may, right? Because when you look at being VPFs, it's all about being ethical and authentic and all of that, right? And while there are certain tabs or certain accounts that file under miscellaneous, it is highly recommended and absolutely shunned for you to actually be using one of those accounts, right? With that said, let me go ahead and try giving you a couple more examples of how the SCOA is used. Uh, so the first situation, I'm just going to throw your way, is of this: an IGV member has gone for an airport pickup, which of course is something that used to happen before the pandemic hit us. So whenever this used to happen, and a member would go for an airport pickup for whatever reason. In most cases, of course, it was to pick up an EP, and now they are going to be reimbursed, right? Because it came down to them spending on behalf of the organization to deliver a certain standard. And when you're a VPF, now you're reimbursing the said person. Where do you put it, right? And that's the question I have for you right now, and I would love for you to answer, which of course you would be answering to a live recording, but that's okay. Keep your answer to yourself at the moment, uh, and do cross check whether you are close to what the answer is, right? Because the answer is fairly simple. You put it under the main ledger or the main account of incoming global volunteer, since it was an IGV member having gone for an IGV EP pickup, right? And please note, it's only coming under the ledger of IGV because it was for an IGV EP. An IGV member could have gone for an IGT pickup as well. And if that was the case, then the ledger being used would be incoming global talent and not incoming global volunteer, right? However, in this case, it was an IGV EP. And the sub ledger, or the sub account under which you would put it, is standards delivery, because this of course is one of the 16 standards being delivered. And because it is so, and because of the nature of the transaction, it goes under standards delivery. And this is really it, right? Now let's look at another side of things, right? And another example, wherein now an OGV EP has paid the approval fee. And my question to you is where do you put it? uh, Once again, now I think fairly simple based off of the previous answer that you just gave to this particular recording. I hope you give another answer, and you would have understood that the main ledger is now going to be based on the product. So your main ledger is outgoing global volunteer. Now, please take a guess at what the sub ledger would be. I'm going to give you exactly this much time. And now I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the answer is. Hopefully, you can cross check and verify what your answer is, right? And the subledger is literally, again, fairly simple: the approval fee. So, by virtue of the SCOA being there, we were able to successfully categorize these particular transactions that we just covered in these examples into the appropriate main ledgers and sub ledgers, right? And of course, I know you it's not something you were supposed to know right off the bat, but in case you are interested, and I hope you are interested, you should definitely go ahead and check out the full standard chart of accounts for 2020-21 over here. So when you do receive this PDF as an output of the space, you can click on that link and you can go and visit the standard chart of accounts and learn something new about the financial model of ISEC in India, right? Over to you, Satwik. Satwik, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Okay, as you were explaining the SCOA, I just sort of had a nostalgia as to when I was even at TL in IGT. I remember I used to run after my VPF and asking him, tell me what is finance, how does finance work in the organization, and it was then he gave me this weird-looking tracker that had all these names, IGB, all these ledgers and sub ledgers, and I was fascinated, yes, but confused 100%. So yes, I think a major nostalgia hit me right now as to when I saw the SCOA. And yes, thank you so much, Varun. It was beautifully presented. So now we'll move towards the interesting bit, and I think the most intriguing part of the ISEC India financial model, and that is the recon model of ISEC in India. Varun, can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, but first, before for us to understand the recon model, it is first important to understand how the MC budget looks like, right? There are certain parts to an MC budget which contribute to the recon model as well. So before shifting to the recon model, we'll first understand how the MC budget looks like. Varun, can you move next? Perfect. So the MC budget is basically divided into 4 parts. Number 1 is the affiliation fees. Number 2, the administrative fees. Number 3, the national services. And number 4, investments. Explaining all of these major heads, affiliation fees is something that ISEC in India pays to ISEC in International to be recognized as an official body of ISEC International, right? Similarly, there are multiple. Every country that is registered registered to ISEC International pays an affiliation fees depending upon the GDP and all these sort of economic factors to ISEC International. Number 2 is the administrative fees, which consist of the rent that the MC pays, the salaries that needs to go out to the MC members, all the expenditure that is made on the office or on the accommodation. All of these goes into the administration bit. Number 3 is the national services. So national services are basically services that the MC team provides to each LC, right? These services can be further divided into, let's say, a conference. Right now, we are attending JNC, and certain investments have been made in this conference, whether it is the platform that we've paid for or other logistics that we require in case we were in a normal year. Other than that, the executive board of each LC is also coached by a respective MC member. So the cost of the visits, the travels for any coaching, the cost of stay, all of these come under national services. And last but not the least is the investments. While you must have heard about R&R or reward and recognition programs in your respective LCs, the MC also runs R&R or reward and recognition campaigns for different LCs. Apart from that, there are various investments made on, let's say, marketing for a brand, or let's say, investments made to coach the MC or coach the membership of ISEC in India. And these are basically the things that constitute investments bit of the MC budget. I hope I was clear. So Varun, can we move to the next bit?
Yeah, Satwik, do you want to quickly explain how affiliation works though? Because moving ahead, we will not be considering affiliation.
Perfect. So okay, so affiliation, an amount is quoted by ISEC in India, ISEC International, to each entity, and the entity is further divide this affiliation into all the local chapters of ISEC in India. Let's say the affiliation fees that ISEC in India has to pay is rupees 10 lakhs, right? And ISEC in India further has 20 LCs that are officially voting LCs or member LCs of ISEC in India. These LCs, let's say 10 lakhs divided by 20, that is 50,000, is the affiliation fees that needs to be paid by each LC to ISEC in India, and then ISEC in India pays that affiliation fees to ISEC in International.
Perfect.
Perfect, Varun. Can we move next? Thank you so much. Okay, so the recon model basically it consists of three major parts. Number one, the administration fees, which I've already explained in the previous slide. Number two, the national services, and number three, the investments. I am sure I've already explained all of these bits, but if there are any questions, we would take up in the question and answer space. So how does the recon model actually work? With regards to the administration fees, a 50-50 share is borne by both the MC and the LCs. Let's say the total amount of administration cost of ISEC in India is 10 lakh rupees. 5 lakhs out of those are paid by is paid by the MC, and the remaining 5 lakhs is paid by all the LCs together. So let's say again there are 20 LCs, 25,000 is the administration fee that each LC needs to pay to the MC. Number two is the national services, which is 100% borne by all the LCs. The reason being, all the services that the MC provides is for the coaching of the local chapter or for the skill development of each member or executive body member of the local chapters. And that is why 100% of the cost of national services is borne by all the LCs. And last but not the least, the division for investments is again 50-50 by LC and MC. Again, giving you an example, 5 lakh rupees spent on investments could be R&R or could be the marketing for, let's say, India is a feeling brand, right? 2.5 lakh rupees will be paid by the MC, and the remaining 2.5 lakhs will be divided equally among all the LCs. Okay, Varun, we can go ahead.
Perfect. Satvik, I'm just really sorry. Just want to quickly add on over there. In case,
Sure.
In case you are confused about how the MC is going to be paying that certain 50% and all of that, I think what you also need to understand is for the MC, what are the income sources, right? Because for the LCs, I think the income sources are fairly obvious. It mainly comes through your BD events. If as an LC you are running any BD events, and the other side and the major chunk of your income comes through, of course, the exchanges, right? Every single OGB exchange you approve, you get an 18,000 into the LC and so on, right? For every other product based on the pricing. But on the MC side, there is no major income coming in from exchanges directly, right? Because the MC is not directly putting up any exchanges. We are doing that as part of the entity. So for the MC itself, the major income source, like for the LCs, it's operations. For the MC itself, the major income source comes from the LCs itself, right? Which is why you see us as LCs paying the MC said amount, which Satvik very aptly described in the recon model here. However, the other 50% which the MC would be covering comes from their other income source, which is also significant, which comes in the form of business development at the MC India level, right? You must have heard about TCS being a national partner. You must have heard about the OnePlus partnership we recently got. So through that, nationally, ISEC in India also earns a certain revenue. So when you look at things, cost centers like the administrative fees and the investments, which Satvik has already covered, the LCs contribute to 50% of those particular fees, and the MC contributes to the other 50% through their BD income that they generate, right? Perfect. Satvik, you can go on.
Yes. So with regards to the change that you see in the screen, it's national services minus TM and LND, which is basically the membership recon, the amount of membership investments that the MC has budgeted for the whole year is reduced from the national services. Again, the whole process is something that we will be explaining later. But again, when we calculate the national services, 100% of which is supposed to be paid by the LCs, we reduce the amount of TM and LLD, which is budgeted by the MCBPF. So Varun, are we good to go? So we can go next.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So Satvik has already covered the talent management and learning and development fees is subtracted out of the national services, and this forms the major portion of the calculation that goes towards the recon or reconciliation, right? But how are LCs expected to pay this amount? Now, if you look at the budget that the MC handles, it goes north of 1 crore, or goes even north of 2 crores a lot of times, right? And if all the LCs of iSkin India, which at the moment, of course, are at 24, were expected to pay say 2 crores, that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money, and it's very difficult for an LC to be expected to pay this amount right up front. So how this works is, you of course know there are 4 quarters, which is signified on the screen by the 4 Qs. So every single quarter that we are in, based on the timeline, has a certain breakup or a certain fee that a certain portion of this entire fee that the LC would be contributing towards the MC. Right now, again, this portion as such is divided based on what historically is observed to be high income timelines for LCs, especially things like the summer peak and the winter peak, right? Because that's when we see a lot of exchanges happening for LCs, and that's when a lot of income also comes into the LCs. So as you can see, for Q1, it's 35%. Q2, it's 20%. Q3, again, it's 20%. And Q4, when we have a winter peak once again, it's 25%. So summer peak being the largest peak of iSkin India historically, we know this through data. So 35% of the fee, which is calculated by the equation which is above, is contributed in the form of 35% in quarter one. In quarter two, it's 20%. Again, this is where we see a dip in operations, because this is somewhere around June, July, where we're not really doing exchanges. And then we move into Q3, which again is not very operationally heavy. And then we finally go up to Q4, where we look at another 25% being contributed, and the last, which concludes the amount towards the MC budget itself, with 25% in the winter peak, which again is a high revenue timeline for LCs. Right. So now how this works is, when you're looking at calculating the amount for every single quarter, because that's how recon is released from the MC side towards the LCs, we calculate based on the weightage, as you can see. So what happens is, now when you're calculating with the equation that you can now see, and which was now updated, the quarter weightage is taken into account. So once the calculation is done in the form of the administrative fees, 50% of the administrative fees, national services minus the TM and LND fees, plus the 50% of the investments, that entire amount is now multiplied by the weightage of the quarter for which we want to calculate recon, right? And after that, very important question, right? When you look at the income, it's different on the OGX side, and it's different on the ICX side, right? So I'm going to ask you right now, once again, I know you probably already saw it on the screen, but I'm going to ask you once again, and you can tally with me. Hopefully you won't cheat. You can tally with me. When does income come in on the OGX side of things, right? So when you put up an OGX exchange, at what point of time in the customer flow, it's customer flow, right? I'm little shaky with those concepts, not done operations for a while. Now, at what point of time in the customer flow itself is the revenue coming into the LC? So if you answered, and if hopefully you did not cheat after seeing the screen, the answer should be OGX approvals, right? At the time of approval, the EP pays us 18,000 for OGV, and 19,500 for the older product, OGE, as of now. So that's when income used to come in for OGX, right? But now on the ICX side of things, once again, I'm going to ask you, and please look at delivering an answer in your own head at the moment. When does income come in on the ICX side of things, right? And the time you had to answer was up till now, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, right? So at the point of an ICX realization is when you'll end up getting in the income for ICX, right? When an IGV EP lands, we pick them up from the airport, and if you are an entity that takes an EP fee from the EP, that's when you get income in, right? So now you've got your EP fee and plus your client, if they are paying, which they should be paying ideally, if they are paying, they would be giving you a rough amount of whatever was discussed at the time of signing the contract, right? And similarly for IGT, if you have an EP that just came down and was realized, the company is now invoiced, and they would land up paying the realization fee as discussed once again at the time of signing the contract, right? So now you look at both of these things, and since we're calculating the reconciliation fee or the exchange fee as such at the moment for ISIC in India as a whole, we consider the number of OGX approvals and the number of ICX realizations that have happened in a particular quarter. So right now we're working with an equation that has been dimmed out on the top. And for that particular quarter, if you are looking at calculating what the recon or the exchange fee is going to look like, you head over to Core or you Expa or wherever it is, you go to check up the stats, and you get the number of OGX approvals that ISIC in India has done in that particular quarter, and the ICX realizations that once again ISIC in India has done for that quarter. And then you take that and you put that into the denominator for the equation we have been slowly forming over the time of this presentation, right? So now on the numerator side, which we of course have already gone over, 50% of the admin fees, 100% of national services minus TM and LND, and 50% of the investment multiplied with the quarter we are working with, and now divided by the number of OGX approvals and the number of ICX realizations. And this would ultimately give you what we tend to call the cost per exchange, right? And a very important point for you to note right now is that an OGX approval and an ICX realization, since we're looking at the number or the volume of exchanges done as such under each OGX or ICX, and that volume is very particularly placed in the denominator of this calculation. It directly implies that if you were to do more OGX approvals and do more ICX realizations, you are invariably reducing the cost per exchange, not just for your LC, but for ISIC in India as a whole, right? So doing more exchanges as such is promoted using this model, because if you do more, ultimately you are going to be paying less per exchange towards the MC as an LC, right? Which in Satvik, in my opinion, where if I may extend this to you, Satvik, is a very fair model and fair consideration to be taken into account. Right now, I understand we've been working with a lot of text on the screen, and if you're not fairly, I don't know, competent with math, if I may, if you're not excited about math, you might have got a little confused. But let me simplify this a bit, right? And we'll put down a few numbers in here just so that you are probably able to understand what exactly happened, right? And what are the ramifications of this. So as I said, this is the cost per exchange, and now I'm going to be plugging in certain numbers. So let's say the admin fee is 5 lakhs. The TM and LND fee is nice. Technical issues as always, of course. But I'm just going to revisit that slide. For whatever reason, if you were able to see that the TM and LND fee in this equation was at 1 lakh rupees. So 50% of the admin fee, which is 5 lakhs, then 3 lakhs minus 1 lakh, which of course has now disappeared, but please bear with me and go ahead and deal with this. If of course me and Satvik are on the call at this point, I will be putting in the amount once again in the chat box. So just to clarify things for you. However, 3 lakhs of national services, 1 lakh of TM and LND, which was subtracted in the brackets, and 4 lakhs is assumed to be the investments under the MC budget, right? So again, 50%. And then the whole thing is multiplied by 0.20, which means we're working with either Q2 or Q3, as we previously mentioned, but assume we're working with Q2 at the moment, because we're just coming out of Q2 right now, right? So 0.20, so that's the numerator. And in the denominator, we have 300 plus 200, 300 being OGX approvals, again, hypothetically, and 200 ICX realizations, again, hypothetically, not having assumed that any of us in ISEC in India have tried to do any exchanges in the last quarter. But anyway, if you do the math and if you crunch these numbers, you will end up with 260 rupees per exchange, which, let me tell you, is not even close to what the number is normally when we look at it. The normal cost per exchange is somewhere in the region of 5,000 rupees. However, since we have taken fairly reduced amounts in the form of this example, you're seeing a fairly nominal exchange fee of 260 per exchange, right? Satwik, now over to you. Once again, apologies for the error with the transition.
I think again, as you've said, I would have loved this cost per exchange when I was a VPF or as an LCP. But again, as Varun has already mentioned, we have a cost per exchange of closely around 5,000 to 6,000, right? So again, just giving you a sort of revisit or going back through whatever we've discussed till now. So the recon model of ISEC in India is basically divided into three parts. Number one is the affiliation fees, which ISEC India pays to ISEC International, and ISEC in all the LCs pay to ISEC in India. All the contents of the affiliation fees are, or basically how the affiliation fees is calculated is by calculating the GDP, the PPP, or the per capita income, and other such factors which I would not go into the detail of. Number two is something called the cost per exchange. That's something Varun already explained to you in very much detail. And last but not the least, we are going to cover the third aspect of the recon model, that is the membership recon or the TMNLD recon. So, Varun, if you could move forward. So as again, the TMNLD, contrary to the exchange recon, is divided equally over all the 4 quarters, right? So let's say 1 lakh rupees is the membership recon that each LC needs to pay. For every quarter, the membership recon will be 25,000 each, right? Perfect. Thank you so much, Varun. Can we go next?
Yeah.
So how do we calculate the, let's say, how do we calculate the amount of exchange recon that we need to pay, right? So basically, at the beginning of the year, the MC budgets a certain TMN LND amount. Let's say in a case it is rupees 10 lakh rupees, which the MC has budget as the TM and LND amount. And it is further divided by the total number of membership that ISEC in India has into the quarter that we are currently in. So Varun, if you could go press next. So yes, so the overall exchange recon or membership, the overall membership recon of ISEC in India is calculated by multiplying the budgeted TMNLND amount into the quarter that we are in. Let's say currently we are in quarter 2. Again, it's 25%. So 10 lakhs multiplied by 25% divided by, let's say in a hypothetical situation, ISEC in India has 2,500 members, which will give us the total membership recon of ISEC in India, which will further be divided into different LCs. So yes, this will give you an estimate of per member or cost per experience or the membership recon that each LC pays to the MC per member that they have. So if you are here, attending the session, or if you're part of your local committee, the LC pays for you as well. A very nominal amount, but yes, you are also valued. You are a valued part of the organization. So let's take again. I've already given an example, but let's again take a hypothetical example. In a case where 1 lakh is the total budgeted amount of TMLND and 25% is the division, and 2,500 is the total number of membership that is currently in ISEC in India. So 10 rupees will be the per member cost that each LC will have to pay. So in a case, let's say in my LC where we have 150 people, so the total the total membership recon that ISEC in Chandigarh needs to pay to the MC will be 150 multiplied by 10, that is 1,500 rupees. Again, since this is a hypothetical example, the membership recon is very less. On an average, the per member cost or the membership recon per member is closely around 160 to 170, depending on the quarter and depending on the year we are in. Right, Varun, can we move next?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about, as Satvik already mentioned in the start, we're going to be covering three things, and that brings the recon calculation to a close. However, before just on an ending note, just to categorize or summarize the recon model itself, there are three parts to recon or reconciliation. The first being the affiliation fee, which of course Satvik covered with you, right? It's the fee that the MC needs to cover to the AI as well for having officially being run and known as an official ISEC entity, which of course is divided in its own separate calculation, which we did not want to get into the details of over here because it's fairly complex. And if you are interested, feel free to let us know. Ask us in the Q&A. I think if hopefully we are around for the Q&A after this recorded session, we'd be more than happy to take you through the affiliation fee, right? And then post that, we've covered the cost per exchange, which is the second part of the recon model. And finally comes the cost per experience, which of course Satvik very beautifully covered for us, right? Now coming to the final part of today's brain shaker or on-demand space, whatever it is called these days. In the old days of ISEC, when JNC used to happen at Bogmalo, they used to be called brain shakers. Nevertheless, right? Last thing, sustainability. So what is sustainability? Sustainability is a financial metric of sorts which we work with to understand whether an entity or in this case an entity could be a product, it could be an LC, it could be BD for all you know. It's a metric that helps you understand and gauge the health of that particular entity or that particular quantity, right? So sustainability will tell you whether you are at risk of this particular quantity at some point in the future, probably driving you into a loss or driving your LC into a state where it cannot function anymore and may have to shut down. Or likewise, if you're looking at a product, let's say a particular product is not being sustainable, as you must have heard your VPFs, throwing this jargon around. I hope they are doing that. You should be doing it. Satvik and I used to enjoy throwing that around in our LC back in the days, just 1 year ago, man. But but anyway, yeah. So if you look at a particular product and it's not sustainable, what we are trying to say is that if you are basically running the product in an unhealthy fashion, wherein somewhere down the line the product is going to be losing more money than what it is making, and then ultimately, if you are working with such a product, that's not good for you, right? Then why are you running a product that is ultimately turning you over into a loss, right? And that is what sustainability at a metric aims to gauge or to let you know about, right? And that is what we're very quickly going to go over here, right? And when we look at sustainability, I think two very important things you need to understand in terms of costs is that costs are categorized into two different categories, right? One being direct cost, the other being indirect cost. Now, when you look at a direct cost, especially inside of ISEC, since we're talking about the financial model of ISEC, a direct cost is everything that is associated with, let's say, a product, right? So if you're looking at OGV, the income comes in the form of course, comes in the form of your approval fees. However, when you look at costs, there are multiple costs, right? And under the SUA, there are various subledgers which are defined under outgoing global volunteer, and please do go ahead and look at those whenever possible, right? But under direct costs, it includes your reimbursement, it includes marketing for the product, it includes uh, referrals and anything basically that would be a cost incurred by you or by your LC as a direct implication of having to run the product, right? So that's what direct costs are. And now when you look at indirect costs, this could be absolutely any other cost that your entity has to bear while running or while functioning as an entity, right? So very quickly, I'm just going to drop in these examples which we have on the slide. Under direct costs, you have something like an airport pickup, or you have something like an EP kit, or you have all the marketing costs associated with a particular product. But when you look at the indirect costs associated with any product or any quantity within ISEC, you look at considering costs like the TM and LND cost, like you can look at considering the R&R. You look at considering the office cost, how much what are your admin expenses, when you look at LC forum expenses, right? These costs are not directly associated with any revenue source. They're not directly associated with our products, right? Which more or less allows us to classify them as indirect costs, which are not costs directly affiliated or associated with the products that are being run inside of ISEC, right? And so you need to understand that these two cost centers exist. And having said that, Satvik is going to go ahead and explain how these are utilized in understanding sustainability. So Satvik, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Varun. Just before I move on, I just had a major nostalgia wherein I remember JNC, and it was, I think, the same space that the then LCP of Bangalore hosted, which was again a finance brain shaker, as we oldies used to call it. And I just had this moment where I so distinctly remember that room and the space that Nishchay was hosting, and I so miss Bogmalo right now. But yes, not taking more of your time. So, Varun, we can move next.
Yeah, perfect.
So basically, when you talk about sustainability, there are three levels of sustainability. It's level 0, level 1, and level 2. I will be explaining briefly what all these levels are and how are these divided, right? Varun, can you move next?
Yeah.
A case of level 0 sustainability is where the revenue is greater than the direct costs.
That's an error again on our part. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
Technical issues always around.
Yes. Yes. So if I have to correct level 0,
I'm just changing it. You can go on.
Sure. A level 0 case of sustainability is a case where the revenue is less than the total expenses, right? It's a state of a loss for the local committee, which means that after a point of time, the entity will cease to exist. Or if we talk about a product, the product will no longer be profitable for the entire local committee. Yes, so this is the case. We are very sorry for the error. This is the case of level 0 sustainability, where the direct costs are greater than the revenue that we generate. Moving on, we will be talking about level 1 sustainability. It is a case where the revenue is greater than the direct costs, right? Varun, can you move back? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A level 1 is a scenario where the revenue is greater than the direct cost. For example, the total income of our local committee is 11 lakhs and the direct cost that we've had to make is 8 lakh rupees. In such a case, the LC will be at level 1 sustainability, wherein the revenue is greater than the total costs or total money that we've spent on the products. Moving on, in the final level of sustainability, which is ideally the level that every LC should aim for and every product should be aiming for, is a level 2 sustainability. This is the case where the revenue is greater than both the direct costs and the indirect costs, right? For example, in the previous case, if I go back to the level 1 sustainability, if my total revenue is 11 lakh rupees, my direct costs are 8 lakh rupees, and my indirect cost is 4 lakh rupees, I am still at a situation of a loss. I am covering my direct expenditure, but my total indirect expenditure constitute to it, let's say, overshooting our budget, right? Wherein the LC is in a situation of loss. In a level 2 level of sustainability, let us assume our income or revenue is rupees 50 lakh rupees. Again, our direct cost is 8 lakh rupees and our indirect cost is 4 lakh rupees. So the total cost amounts to rupees 12 lakhs, whereas the total revenue is 15 lakh rupees. The LC in this case is LC at a level 2 sustainability, right? And now if we are going to talk about product, since if we look at a product, the product's indirect cost direct is not readily available. So how do we calculate the sustainability of a product or the indirect cost of a product? So remember in the previous space when we talked about OGX exchanges and ICX realizations, which we call it as an exchange in financial terms, right? An OGX approval and an ICX realization in finances term is called as an exchange, especially while calculating recon. right? So in a scenario where 40% of the total exchanges are done by OGV, 40% of the indirect cost of the total indirect cost is to be covered by OGV. Only then will it be a level 2 sustainable product. So that is how we calculate sustainability levels both of a LC or an entity, and similarly of a product, right? And how are these things very beneficial? This is one decision that I had to take personally in my LC, wherein a pattern that we observed that over the last 2 years, IGV for us was a level 0 sustainable product, wherein we were generating losses while running IGV. So I, as a LCP, had to take this tough call where I had to drop IGV as a whole. And that is where these levels of sustainability and all of these tools come into place. And that is why both me and Varun felt that sustainability, especially during the current scenario, is one topic that every member of ISEC in India should be aware of. I think that is it from our end. I had a lovely, lovely time with moments of nostalgia hitting us. Yes, and again, I hope all of you get to know a lot of all of you get a lot of inferences from the finance workshop, and we would love to answer all of your questions if the space allows us to do. If not, just reach out to us. Get our numbers from your LCPs, and feel free to reach out to any of us through the course of the conference or post that as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Patrick. Once again, there was a small error with the with the presentation, and I'm personally very obsessed with having a solid ending. So I'm sorry, but please look at this animation one last time. Thank you so much for listening to us, bearing with us. There have been some total of 3 errors over this workshop. We apologize for it, but what's an ISEX
And yeah,
without errors?
yeah, and make sure that as a VPS you do not make these errors. We made these errors because it was a presentation, but as VPS we were 100% on point with our work, and that is what a VPF needs to do.
For sure. Thank you, Satvik. Thank you for listening to us, and hopefully we are around on the same call as which you are viewing this workshop from to answer your questions. And yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And as Satvik said, feel free to contact us at any point in time for anything, for that matter. Yeah. Thank you.